When I first learned that I had breast cancer, I had just had the best summer of my life. I had competed in several long-distance outrigger canoe races. I had completed the 30 days of Bikram yoga and 30-day challenge. I had even purchased a little summer pass at a local wave pool so that I could boogie board at lunchtime every other day. So when I found out that I had triple negative breast cancer, on the heels of such an amazing summer, it was completely devastating. For the next few months, I basically just tried to make decisions about how I could best survive. And that was what breast cancer surgeon to use, whether or not to do chemo, what kind of surgery to have, whether I was going to need radiation, whether or not to reconstruct, all this type of stuff I'd never even thought I'd be thinking about. And although I'd heard lymphedema mentioned by my breast surgeon, I hadn't really thought of it as even really being an issue because I was very fit. And all through my treatment, all through chemo, I walked a couple of miles a day. I did yoga every day. In my mind, I did everything right. And I had the advice of one of my good friends who was also a physical therapist and was a survivor herself to kind of guide me along the way. So it was a big surprise to me when at the tail end of my chemo treatments, I developed lymphedema. And although I'd heard of lymphedema, I hadn't really given it much thought because I didn't think I would be a candidate. I didn't think the way it was kind of played out is you don't really think you're going to get it if you're me. And then I started reading more about it, and I realized just what a devastating chronic illness or disease it is. When you start looking at what the advice is from the experts about how to deal with lymphedema, you hear things like, don't lift groceries with your arm that's affected, don't take hot showers, don't lift your heavy purses, don't lift a backpack. When I'm reading this, I'm thinking about my life prior to lymphedema, and I lift a canoe on my back. I spent 20 years as a plumber lifting heavy pipes. I mean, I'm a very active, very strong person. And to tell me at the age of 42 that I can't lift a heavy purse or I can't lift a bag of groceries was just devastating. So I did a lot of research, started looking around saying, oh my God, somebody's got to help me figure this out because I don't want to live this. I don't want to live in a world where I can't lift a bag of groceries. I mean, I was thankful to survive, but we don't just have to settle for being alive, you know? A lot of us want to go back to fully functioning or to functioning like we were before we found our lump. Fortunately, I found a physical therapist, put me through the paces. I said, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to be able to paddle again. I want to be an active person. I want to hike. What can you do to help me out? There's very few people around that even dealt with lymphedema at all. I think I maybe found 2 or 3. So my lucky stars aligned, and I happened to find a person who was a former coach that coached women in track and was very much invested in survivors that weren't just the survivors, but were also pursuing the things that they were pursuing prior to finding out they had cancer. And it was through working with her that it was the first time in months that I felt like an athlete again instead of a cancer patient. Meeting somebody like this physical therapist who saw me as an athlete and saw what it meant to me to compete again meant all the difference. In just 6 months after beginning my lymphedema treatment, I was able to compete again. And not only was I competing, I competed in the world championship sprints for my sport.